Hi all, the armchair artist here. They say there's a shortage of bumblebees. Well, not in my garden, there isn't. You can see there's lots of them here. They're all over this rowan tree and they're really enjoying it. Today's painting was brought about by photographing a bee on a bush also in my garden called Lady in Red. And here you can see the photo. I cheated a little bit and traced round some of the elements, the flowers and the leaves, just to get me started. I'll change some of them as I go, but it made sense rather than just be spending all my time drawing. I may as well get on with the painting. So I've drawn around the elements and then put a background in a very dark red colour to harmonise the painting. I could have left it white, but I don't think that would have looked quite as good, and I wanted it to stand out against the white flowers. The main aim of this painting is to show you how I use stamp brushes to save time and hopefully give a good painterly effect. So you can see that I've created one flower already in the towards the back of the painting. It's only small, so it doesn't give you the opportunity to see what's been going on. So when the painting gets towards the front and the flowers get bigger, I'll take you through how I do it in a little bit more detail. And it's all done with stamp brushes. Some people might think it's cheating. I don't. I think it still looks good, and I still had to paint the first stamp brush that I used. I actually created 3 stamp brushes for this painting. One with a straight on view from the front, and then the other 2, because the flower is rounded, I did it with a plane, if you like, from the side and from the edge, so as it gave it an overall rounded effect when I stamped it onto the painting. In the next flower you can see that I'm doing all the ones that are like on their edge around the top of the flower, and then I put in another row which are the ones that are facing slightly at an angle, and lastly I put in the ones that are facing straight towards the viewer. When that's done, I put in some little green spots towards the centre and a little yellow cross, and that denotes the centre of the flower. And then I put some little white stamens sticking off around the edges of the flower. Then I go back over the flower, and on some of the petals I'll change the white to a little bit of a pinker colour, and that gives each flower a little bit more depth. I did manage to get in a bit of a mess with this painting because I didn't do enough layers. Here you can see I have managed at this point doing a separate layer because I want this flower to go further back in the painting. So I've done it on a separate layer, and then I've reduced the opacity, and you can see now in the top left hand corner that that flower sits quite nicely back as if it's in the distance. Also the stalk in front of it helps to push it further back as well, and that stalk is behind another leaf, so that's just creating the illusion of depth. See, now that I'm getting quite well into this painting, I'm knocking these leaves off one at a time as I come forward in the painting. It's always the same with the leaves, the basic colour, then there are high parts and low parts. I put dark in the low parts and then a darker red in the low parts, and where it's higher that obviously catches an highlight, so I just put a little bit of light blue in that, and it creates the illusion that those are highlights. I use blue instead of white because I think it comes out better, and it sort of looks more realistic. This is a part of the painting that I didn't enjoy much, doing these buds. They caused me no end of trouble. I don't know why. Perhaps I should have done a stamp brush for those as well, but I put them in just to give the painting a little bit more of a variety rather than having just flowers. A few buds might look reasonable, I thought. So I stuck with it. I had a bit of patience and redid them a few times, and once I got some of the stalks in at the bottom, they looked reasonably good, so I left it in. We're coming up now to a good example of doing a flower, and you'll see that I put the top row of flowers in first in pink, and then I change to white and go over those. Then I do the next angled brush, do them in pink, then in white on top, and then lastly I do the front ones white, pink, and then white over the top. And here you can see I'm doing the centres, 4 little green dots towards the centre. I don't do them all, I'm just using it to show a few of them, and the eye sorts the rest out for itself. 4 little green dots and then a yellow cross, and then I go over some of the petals, and where they're very white I go over them in pink just to delineate where edges start and edges finishing. It doesn't take that long. It takes probably about 5 minutes to do a whole flower. If I was to paint each flower individually and not use a stamp brush, I daresn't guess how long it would take. The whole idea is to create a pleasing image, like I've said before, and it doesn't really matter how you get there. And if using stamp brushes gets you to the image that you have in your head quicker, then that's fine. If it doesn't look like a reasonable painting at the end of the day, then you're wasting your time, aren't you? But to me, a stamp brush is a fantastic bit of kit, and I will carry on using them wherever I can, and hope you can see how much time you can actually save by using a stamp brush. Here I'm about to do the big leaf that sticks up in the middle. You can see as well that there's a spare flower towards the top, just looks as if it's dropped off the other one, but that's one of the perils of stamp brushes. If you touch the screen somewhere with your finger accidentally instead of the tip of your brush, you finish up stamping whatever your stamp brush is. And throughout the painting I was getting these little flowers turning up all over the place, and I'll be honest with you, it caused me a lot of trouble. That and the fact that somewhere along the line when I was creating the stamp brushes, I must have put a dot on the canvas that I was using, so whenever I used a stamp brush I got a white dot on the painting, and I didn't notice at first, but towards the end of the painting, I don't know if you can see them towards the bottom, I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not, but you'll see it looks like white measles everywhere. There's a couple of white flowers down there on their own, and because I hadn't done layers, and this is a big thing you must remember all the time, I couldn't rub them out. It meant that I had to go over the leaves and over the dark background, repainting to get rid of the white spots and the extra flowers that had stamped on by me touching the painting, the screen, and I finished up with stuff all over the place. If I'd have used more layers, I would have been able to just go over with the eraser and I'd have got rid of them straight away. Still, you live and learn. Right, it's bee time. All the flowers and leaves are in, so it's the time to put the bumblebee in. And I start off with him in the centre of the flower. And he's a bit long, to be honest, as well at this point. Not the best bee I've ever done. But once I start to put in the wings, I realise that I need to move the bee, because to show the transparency of the wings, the bottoms of them need to be over the darker part of the painting. So you can see that I actually moved the bee towards the bottom, so the wings are in front of some dark red. Thankfully I had the bee on a separate layer, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to do that. I also transformed the bee and squashed him up a bit, so he didn't look quite so long. So that's it, that's the painting done. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did, please subscribe, and there'll be another painting coming along in a few days. Thank you very much for watching.